Oh boy, medic. Might be surprising, but I actually main this stupid idiot. It feels nice to be the one that turns the tide of an entire match, and also dictate whether the fools on your team live or not. Medic's a bit of an odd case balance-wise, considering he's the only dedicated healer, with the stalemate breaker being whatever uber charge he uses. This makes all of his mediguns great, but then you look at his primaries and melees. Yeah, it's not even close. So, how does TC2 remedy this? Scrub in, cause things are about to get messy. On the top of the list is the Syringe gun, renamed the Syringe SMG in TC2. I don't know how I feel about this thing. So, it holds 40 shots and fires 10 syringes per second that deal 10 damage each, meaning this thing actually has around 100 DPS. There's just two main issues. Number one, the syringes are incredibly hard to hit. They move very slowly and also have a horrible travel arc, meaning you have to map out how your opponent travels while you're firing. I literally have to read my opponent's every move just to use this thing. Second, Medic isn't a damage class. You're better off running away or going for a melee swing if you're in a pinch, and otherwise you should just focus on healing. The Syringe SMG deals slightly less damage and has a smaller clip size, but does one major change, which is changing the horrible projectiles into hit scan bullets. You can also heal your teammates with this now, either via ult fire to shoot a mini crossbow arrow, or primary fire with your normal bullets. They barely heal anything, so I don't know why you wouldn't just close the gap to heal them with your medigun. Or even better, just use the crossbow. As for an aggressive option, I guess it's just the sniper's SMG on medic. It doesn't feel garbage to aim anymore, but it still feels like shooting pebbles at a tank. It tries to tread on the crossbow's ground, but ends up being worse in every way. You can say this is a decent side grade if you're bad with the crossbow, but that's a dumb excuse, so this is a mid-change. Second up is Medic's real stock primary weapon, the Crusader's Crossbow. It's been renamed to the Syringe Crossbow in TC2, which proves that Doctor from TC2 is a certified non-Crusader, and is also addicted to drugs. The Crusader's Crossbow is the best primary for Medic since it actually complements his job. It's a single-shot crossbow that damages enemies and heals teammates. These arrows use reverse ramp up and fall off, meaning the closer your targets are, the less damage this deals. It holds 38 reserve ammo and also reloads automatically, letting you alternate between medigun and crossbow healing. The damage isn't anything noteworthy, anywhere from 38 to 75. The real benefit comes from the healing, since one arrow will heal a minimum of 75 to a maximum of 150. Have a single teammate at low health? Fire an arrow. Have a faraway teammate at low health? Fire an arrow. Have multiple teammates at low health? Alternate between arrows and your medigun. This lets Medic do so much at a faster rate, making him the ultimate healing machine. The Syringe Crossbow is pretty similar in its usage, but has a couple changes. They lower the reserve ammo by half, going from 38 to 20, which is still more than enough. The arrows cannot be reflected and also don't have reverse ramp up or fall off. In fact, it doesn't have ramp up or fall off at all. It will deal a fixed 56 damage to enemies and heal a fixed 70 health. I liked the inconsistent damage of the original. It made the weapon feel more rewarding when you hit long range shots. Not sure why this change was needed, but I don't mind it either. Makes the weapon less interesting but more consistent. It's a whatever change. Third over is the Blutsauger, which was reworked in the form of the Dairy Douser in TC2. And I'm gonna have my friend and footage provider Vaco voice out this section, so welcome Mr. Vaco. Vaco. Dude, I don't know how to pronounce this shit, okay?
Salutations, it's me, the person who recorded TC2 footage you see in these videos. I thought I should help out more, so here's my humble attempt at sharing my opinions via voicing this. Okay, anyways, let's discuss the amalgamation of a weapon. The Blutsauger is as simple as an idea can be. You heal 3 health on hit, and in return, your passive regeneration gets shrunk by 2. It tricks you into combat encounters while dealing mediocre damage. This weapon also heals a mediocre amount. You will probably be better off using your melee instead. As a backbarrel tool, I guess it's fine, but you're better off using anything other than this. The Dairy Douser, for whatever reason, is a crossbow, not a syringe gun. So instead of mediocre inaccurate chip damage, you get one precise and okay damage dealing shot that soaks targets in mad milk, on hit heals you, and extinguishes teammates. However, it does not heal teammates and fires 20% slower. Yeah, I know, pretty harsh downsides for the okay upsides. This weapon, again, tricks you into combat encounters while dealing mediocre damage. I can see the thread going for a different type of support, but anything this weapon does, you can do better with the crossbow or your medigun. Dousing the enemy your patient is fighting, so they can heal back the damage, is defeated by the crossbow healing more than what they heal from the doused enemy. The lazily slapped on and hit instead of it extinguishing teammates also is outshined by the crossbow out-healing fire damage. Do you get the memo yet? Outshined? Mediocre? Overall, the Blutsauger walked, so the Dairy Douser could jog. They are both mediocre and outshined by other options. TLDR, use the fucking crossbow.
Alright, man. Thank you. Very, very insightful. And rounding the home stretch for primaries is the Overdose, reworked to the Overdrive in TC2. The Overdose in TF2 is pretty interesting. I'll start by getting the 15% damage penalty out of the way because, well, it makes you deal 1 less damage per syringe. It literally does not matter. Now, onto the upside, it grants a movement speed bonus while active that goes up to 20% based on your Uber charge percentage. In practice, you're usually going to be at around half or more Uber, meaning you're moving as fast as a backpedaling Scout. While it's not as good as the crossbow, I unironically believe that this is his second best primary. It acts almost like a power jack for medic that you can also shoot, letting you run away to safety or reposition quite effectively. People just run at you in a straight line if you're defenseless, meaning you can pelt them in the face with a barrage of needles. It could use a buff, but honestly, it's alright as a utility tool. Within TC2, the Overdrive becomes a passive primary instead of a syringe gun. It being passive means your only means of self-defense comes from your melee, but let's see what else this weapon has up its sleeves. Or souls. Dude, I don't know, okay? So, they changed the Uber movement speed from 20% to 15%, but the main change is the fact that you have a base 10% increased movement speed. This lets you move as fast as a Powerjack Pyro with no Uber, and as fast as a Scout with full Uber. I miss the interactive nature of the Overdose in TF2, being able to shoot syringes was pretty fun, but the fact that melee is so generous in TC2 makes this surprisingly fun to use as you're running around at lightning speed with a bonesaw the size of the moon. I quite like this change actually. Beginning our melees is the stock bonesaw, which becomes no longer the stock bonesaw in TC2. The stock bonesaw in TF2 isn't actually that bad. At close ranges, it deals higher and more consistent damage than his primaries, so you might as well get a few swings in while you're retreating. The only problem is the fact that the Ubersaw exists, so why bother with an objectively worse weapon? But anyways, in TC2, they made it so that it not only drops a small health pack on kill, but you also heal 50% more from these health packs. This is genuinely an amazing change. It fixes the problem of medic having no incentive to use this over the Ubersaw, because survivability is just as important as Uber. There's no point having Uber if you're dead. It also lets him act much more aggressively, and he can get away with it, and I think that's pretty cool. Next up is Medic's real stock melee weapon, the Ubersaw. It's been renamed the Supersaw in TC2. The Ubersaw is another very simple weapon. It fires 20% slower, which is like 0.2 seconds extra, but gives 25% Uber on hit. 1 swing saves like 10 seconds of Uber building. 4 swings is a full Uber. Medic's entire deal is building Uber. This lets him immediately gain 1/4 of the most powerful mechanic in the game. And in TF2, there's no shortage of overextending soldiers or clueless spies to farm Uber off. Yeah, this is just a very, very useful weapon. The Supersaw in TC2 does some minor changes for the 2 stats. It now fires 40% slower and also grants 20% Uber on hit. You also don't get Uber with this while Uber charged, so now you can't Uber chain. These nerfs hurt this thing hard. There's 2 scenarios you pull out your melee as medic. Either you're alone and retreating, or there's an overextending player that you want to hit before your team finishes them off. If you're alone, this thing will get you killed since your opponent deals damage faster than you can swing. If you're with your team, this thing requires you to be pinpoint accurate, because otherwise you'll miss and your team will finish them off. Uber is still insanely powerful, but the risk versus reward does not feel worth it. I would say it's usable, but the slower firing speed and less Uber gained was complete overkill. I love the Vita-saw, and that's his lame, stupid name. What the hell is the Dentist Delight? Oh my god, I hate this shit. Okay, in all seriousness though, the Vita-saw kinda sucks. So, the main draw is the fact that when you hit an enemy, you get an organ. Organs store 15% Uber charge to a max of 60%. For example, if I had 2 organs when I died, that means I respawn with 30% Uber already built. The downside is that you have 10 less health, which isn't actually that big of a deal if you're playing medic cautiously. Rather, the reason this sucks is because it's a response to constantly dying, and dying as medic isn't good. And not just that, you need to die with all that uber to begin with. And the last thing I want to do as medic is to die when I already had like 50% uber build. All this combined creates a very risk-intensive option that rarely has its upside come into play, making this completely overshadowed by the Ubersaw. TC2 does a complete rework in the form of the Dentist's Delight. Terrible name. Anyways, this thing will grant a tooth upon hitting an enemy, up to 5. Each tooth extends the duration of your Uber charge by a second, and they get consumed upon Uber charge. On the downside, this deals 25% less damage and holsters 25% slower. Gonna be honest, I love this thing. Increased Uber duration is incredibly strong. It lets you extend pushes, it makes up lost time when your pocket does something stupid, it distracts the enemy for longer, it does so much more. And the fact at max teeth, this pretty much extends your Uber by 60%. It also deals less damage, so you can rack up quite a bit of teeth from a clueless overextending player, similar to what you would do with the Ubersaw. A very, very great change. It gives something that can combat the Ubersaw in terms of value. I guess that's everything. Most of these reworks are pretty good, and I'm surprised that they managed to do so many impactful changes. I skipped the Amputator and the Vaccinator though, because the changes don't do much to solve the problems. Also, I respect the choice to leave the Mediguns mostly untouched. So, Doctor, he's fun to play. He has some decent side grades in his primary and melee slot. Good job to the balancing team. And thank you to Vaco for providing TC2 footage and the voiceover, and thank you to you guys for watching. Bye.